Hello, and welcome to my channel for those that have already subscribed, and for those newbies, welcome, hello, I love you already. I am going to be talking about Face Equality Week and Birthmark Awareness Day, which was on the 15th. Last month, a couple of people commented in the comments section about my birthmark, asking questions about it, and I hadn't really given it much thought beforehand, talking about my birthmark, but then seeing as it's quite appropriate this month, I thought, you know what, I'm going to look back and I'm going to give it a go. This video is really anyone who's either been proactive in Face Equality Week or anyone who's interested actually in what it might be like for someone with a face difference. Okay, before I get started, let's just, for the sake of argument, okay, because we'll get there. Let's presume, or let's imagine I don't have the face tattoos, okay? I'm going to come to this later, but let's pretend I don't have the face tattoos just so that while I'm talking, we don't have to, I know. I am aware that on the spectrum of facial differences, I am quite on the low end of differences. There are many people out there with a much more significant, strong appearance that is different to the norm. I don't in any way want to come across as if I am speaking entirely for them or that my experience is the same as theirs, but I do feel that anyone with a facial difference, their story is valid, and I like to think that people can gain value from hearing those stories, and so I want to share partly my story. Let's jump into it. I was born with a portwine stain birthmark on my face, which is just blood vessels that are trapped very close to the skin, and so you get this red appearance. I believe some people call it a strawberry mark or a strawberry stain. I'm not sure. It's a cute term, but I've never used it, so I'm just going to call it a portwine stain because that's what I'm familiar with. It started off very bright in colour, and I remember my parents telling me that the doctors at the time thought that it was something that would disappear within time. I guess birthmarks such as mine weren't as well known or recognized in the medical community. I might be wrong, but they were certainly told that it would disappear. It didn't. And so little Heywood had a birthmark, and that was it, and off we trotted along. Apparently, the first time I ever noticed my birthmark was when I was 2, and my mother had me in her arms, and I looked in the mirror and I tried to wipe it off. I don't remember this. Apparently, it really upset her, which is fair enough for her. So that was the first time that I was aware of my birthmark, I guess. But my first memory that I can remember of my birthmark was when I was in kindergarten. 4 years old, and I remember going to the gate, and there was a kid on the other side of the gate, and the kid went, "What's that on your face?" And my words were, "It's just a birthmark." I don't know where these words came from. I don't know if it was something that I had heard from my parents or from other people, but this was my phrase, and I didn't really feel any other way about it. I just got on with my day. It hadn't affected me yet. For me, school was a lot of fun. I enjoyed school. My birthmark was never a detriment. One thing I do remember was when I was 8, I went to a new school, and a kid in the class asked me, "What's that on your face?" I said, "It's just a birthmark." And he said, "But you can get that removed, can't you?" And I was like, I'd never really thought about it. And he said, "Oh, but it's ugly, no?" And I remember it being a little bit taken back. As far as I remember, I just got on with it. Didn't really fuck me up at that point. So for the sake of not boring anyone who's watching this with every year of my life, let's fast forward until I got to my late teens. As I think for almost every teenager on the planet, it's not easy, and is an array of reasons why you may feel self-conscious and uncomfortable. Again, I wasn't bullied at school, and going out on Friday nights, the birthmark was never a real issue, apart from a handful of times when some drunk twit would make fun of it or say something. But again, I was quite confident when I was drunk, so that wasn't a problem. You see, my memory is hazy, and I'm not sure if I've suppressed a lot of it or if I just haven't really been affected by it. Now, although I don't remember being bullied, I do remember being Hey up!
Hello.
Come in. It's Adam. Do you want to come say hello?
Hi.
This is Adam.
Right. I'm basically this guy's personal photographer.
He is. I'll leave a link underneath. Okay, sorry about that, but you know, I do these videos at a working studio, so every now and then we get people coming in, and it's cool. Adam's like, what you saying? Cheers for the photos. Right. I think as a person with a facial difference growing up, I was very much more open-minded, tentative and aware, I guess, of other people with obvious differences, obvious ways that they look differences, whether it be face or body. On some level, having a birthmark, I was aware, I guess, that looking differently meant people treated you differently. By looking different, you get treated different, and when that happens, you kind of just more aware of other people that look different on a different level. I do remember as a kid, people staring and it bothering me, and I remember as a kid crying. We were in public, I must have been like 6 or something. I was crying, holding onto my mum's arm, and I remember this woman looking at me as if she was worried for me, and I assumed, even at that age, that it was because she thought I'd just been hit in the face. And it's coming back to me a lot now that I often get asked if I was hit in the face, if I'd been punched or burnt. And it would often come from adults. And looking back on it now, I wonder if they were questioning it in a concerned way for my safety. I don't know. But speaking to a lot of people with birthmarks in the birthmark community, on Facebook and on Instagram, I spoke to some people of different ages, and there's this one lady, she's 62 now, and she still covers her birthmark every day before she leaves the house, just out of fear, really. And I had a chat with her, and she was telling me how as a child her school even deemed her handicapped because of her facial difference, and she told me how her mother used to cover up her birthmark for special occasions, that her church deemed her sinister, I believe. But you know, there was all these implications of her having a birthmark, and I guess she's a few generations behind, so society was also a few generations behind. But it's really sad that at 62 years old, she's still affected on a daily basis because of the birthmark, and it's a shame, really. And a lot of that stems from people not being aware, or not necessarily even not aware of what a birthmark is, but unaware of how to act and react to people with a birthmark, and definitely what's appropriate and what's not. I personally don't have a problem with anybody asking me, what's that on your face? I welcome it. I'd rather somebody ask me straight up, even in the streets, really, than just staring. And you do get those blind stares. And even before the tattoos, I would have people look in shock or in fear. They would be they'd be scared. And it was like, maybe they thought it was blood, maybe they thought it was a fresh burn. I mean, I've seen different reactions. A big one is I see people stare and then they look shocked and then they quickly snap out of it because they realize. I guess partly why raising awareness is so important is so that it becomes normalized. The more people are exposed to birthmarks and different facial differences, then the less shocking it will be when they actually see it in the real world, right? And that's the difference between getting a shitty stare and not. But I remember when I was 19, I was in France with a couple of friends, and we were in a restaurant. I was really hungover, so I was a bit self-conscious anyway because of that. But I remember everybody in the fucking restaurant staring, and it really threw me that day. And often it would annoy me, make me feel self-conscious. But that day it was really bad, like, because I had people like this staring. And you know what's really shitty is when you've got a group of people and one looks and then a couple of minutes later they're all looking because they're talking about it. It's like these people aren't aware of how their reaction can affect someone. It can make you feel uncomfortable, and to go through that on a day-to-day basis, even on a subconscious level, you slowly develop this anxiety which has been created from that constant reaction, and it creates a self-doubt within yourself, and that is detrimental to somebody's life. So this is another reason why facial difference awareness is so fucking important. And I mean, I'm talking from a very privileged perspective where my birthmark isn't even that big compared to some beautiful people out there with much bigger birthmarks, and my facial difference isn't even that big compared to some people whose I can't remember the terms now, but their entire facial appearance is different, and quite significantly sometimes. So I can only imagine what kind of reactions those people are getting. I mean, there's a list of facial differences that are out there, and I wish Treacher's Collins, I fucking can't remember, I'm so bad with it. I should Google it really, just out of respect. Hold on. Treacher Collins, which is a genetic disorder and the face is misshapen. And I mean, if you're not aware of that and you don't know what it is, then if you see that for the first time at 30 years old or 50 years old, yeah, you might react in a certain way. And I appreciate that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What I do think is wrong is just blatant staring. And fuck me, like, if you are staring at someone that looks different, if they give you eye contact, you better be ready to give them a nod and a smile. Because if you look away quickly, I get it, it's because you feel awkward, but if you're staring, be aware that they might catch you looking. A nod and a smile goes a long way. Like, people with facial differences, they know that they've got a facial difference. They have to live with it every single day, and they deal with it probably much better than you do. I can't speak for everyone, like maybe some people just don't want eye contact at all, and I'm sure some people that have gone through significant trauma because of their facial differences, they're not keen to make eye contact with anyone anyway, so they might potentially avoid it. Which leads me on to when I was in my late teens and early 20s. I remember clearly, as I became an older teen and in my early 20s, I developed agoraphobia, if I've pronounced that right. Predominantly just public spaces, alone. I could do it if I was with a friend or a few friends, I was fine. But to be alone would not happen. I mean, I was riddled with anxieties anyway, but for example, if I was to meet a friend in town because we were going to go somewhere, I would have to make sure that they're there before me. Because God forbid I'm waiting at the bus stop on my own in a busy city, because I was so self-aware at that point about being stared at from all angles, from everybody. And I guess I couldn't handle it at that point. I wasn't equipped with the tools to deal with that. And that would go on throughout my 20s, this social anxiety that I had. And I don't know if I can blame it all on having a birthmark, but I do think it's got a strong contributing element to it. And really that only started subsiding when I was about 26, 27, and I started going to the gym a lot. I started building a self-confidence within myself. I started getting in better shape. And I started I guess with age, I just started caring less about the stares. The stares never stop. Although I guess with time people become more aware as well, but they definitely didn't stop. I stopped caring as much. So it's worth noting that in my late 20s, I started getting tattooed, and the tattoos, I started finding confidence in my own skin with getting tattooed. And so by the time I was in my early 30s, my self-confidence, it being in public, got much better. And I feel like the more tattooed I got, actually, the more confident I grew, until I got to the point where I was comfortable to get my neck tattooed and then ultimately get my face tattooed. Would I have got my neck and face tattooed if I had never had a birthmark? It's an interesting question. But when I really dig deep, I realized that I was owning the stares. I was taking back control over why people were staring at me, because I was never really sure why people were staring at me. I would walk down the street and I would before the tattoos, I'd walk down the street and I would dread it if I saw someone walking towards me, because I thought, fuck, they're gonna stare and then they're gonna look away and it's gonna be this whole awkward thing. And that whole awkward thing just caused anxiety for me. But by getting tattooed, I was like, I know they're gonna stare. I guess like there was a shift. Suddenly people were looking more at the tattoos and the birthmark, to the point where the tattoos were actually more shocking than the birthmark, if that makes sense. I think people's focus wasn't on the birthmark as much anymore. I wasn't just a blank canvas with a birthmark, I was decorated and happened to have a birthmark as well. I think that's kind of what was going on in here. And like, so when I got my face tattooed, I was very ready for it. I was 36 when I got my face tattooed. I'm 36 now. I've only had it for, I was 35 when I had the little one. Anyway, it's irrelevant really. It's just I spoke with a couple of people before I did this video. One person in particular, although I know his intentions came from the right place, he was very apprehensive for me to do this video, because he thought because I have face tattoos that people wouldn't think that my account of having a birthmark was valid. I think what he failed to realize is that I'm quite comfortable with my birthmark. I'm at a place now where my birthmark has very little negative impact on my day-to-day life. I don't think about it much. When I walk in the street and people stare, I don't, it's not that I don't see it, it's just, well, I don't see it as much because I'm not looking for it, because it doesn't bother me as much. I'm a lot more comfortable within, which I am super grateful for, because I know a lot of people aren't that fortunate, and I mean, it's hard. I didn't get there overnight, and it took a lot, and I think the tattoos helped. But getting the face tattoos does not remove my experience or my journey that I had to go through growing up with a birthmark. They're two separate things. I think a beautiful aspect of Facial Difference Awareness Week is that it's just getting conversation going between people, even if it's within the community itself. Everyone can learn a lot from other people, and it's very interesting to speak to people from different parts of the world and how their experiences differ a lot. And one pattern that I see is that people with a facial difference, if they've got very supportive parents, it goes a long way. It's so fucking important. I think it's just such a fucking tragedy for people whose parents haven't supported them unconditionally. And for me personally, I've kind of reopened this subject for me this month, because like I said, it's not something that's at the forefront of my mind, but I felt like maybe it should be. Maybe I should talk about it more, if anything, because I am at this point in my life now where I'm very comfortable talking about it, and I'm very confident within myself in the way that I look. I posed a question on my TikTok about this face tattoo versus birthmark thing, and everybody that replied was saying that the tattoos are completely irrelevant and that the birthmark is still a valid reason to talk about it, which I didn't expect to have such an outweigh of positive v negative. I didn't really get any negative, and to this day I get a lot more negative comments about my tattoos than I ever do about my birthmark, and that's definitely a step in the right direction in terms of facial difference awareness. Not so much for people who want to get their face tattooed, but that's a different video. Regardless of where on the spectrum of facial difference you are, and even for those that don't have a significant facial difference, it's not really my place to say how you should or shouldn't act, react, or feel about this whole. Everybody's experience is obviously different. I just know that for me, in terms of spreading awareness and reacting to the people of the public that might not necessarily ignorant, but are reacting in maybe a crass way, I prefer to stay very friendly and very positive and not make light of it, but keep the conversation light. For years I used to say it's just a birthmark, and I am trying to stop saying it's just a birthmark, because that kind of devalues what it is, and I appreciate now more than ever how it isn't just a birthmark. The birthmark has shaped me in a big way to who I am today, and actually looking back, it's helped me gain a lot of confidence now. I just had a fucking bumpy road to get there. It's made me, in some elements, be a lot more open-minded and aware of others, and for that, it's fucking priceless. But there are so many different aspects to growing up and life that contribute to that. So again, the birthmark is just one factor. Compared to many, my experience was not as traumatic, and it still fucked me up. And my insecurities, my lack of confidence in myself and my self-belief, those were the things that were really getting triggered directly or indirectly because of the birthmark and how other people reacted. But once I found that I could overcome it, I hope that anyone who is struggling with a facial difference finds the support that they need, because it's invaluable. And as much awareness as we can all give about the topic, as important as it is, the inner work that you do on yourself is crucial. It's just crucial. Even if you haven't got a facial difference, it's crucial. Do you know what I mean? We, as a society, we're all so obsessed with external stimuli and what everyone else is doing that we forget to look at ourselves in a positive light. We forget to look after ourselves. We are very fucking vulnerable as people, especially in today's society with social media. But that's a whole different topic. Social media is got so many benefits. As you can see, we are here, and facial difference awareness, it's got so much more reach now because of social media, and for that it's fucking awesome. I don't have anything left to say. I hope you have found value in this video. I'm sorry if it was a bit disorganized. I try not to format my videos too much because it doesn't come across as authentic, and if it doesn't come across as authentic, I won't publish it, and if I don't publish it, then you've got nothing to watch. If you've got nothing to watch, then what am I doing? Yeah, I hope you're all okay, doing fab, and I just fucking love you, basically. I'm gonna go now, I've got to do a TikTok. I'll see you soon. Cheers.